King Charles thought the spotlight belonged to him. The palace was ready. The troops were marching. The balconies were polished. The cameras were fixed on London. And then, just as the royal machine prepared for one of its most symbolic days of the year, Prince Harry made a move that sparked an entirely new storm. Was it coincidence? Was it timing? Or was it something much bigger hiding beneath the surface? Because while the king stood at the center of royal tradition, Harry appeared to be writing a completely different story from thousands of miles away. And suddenly, people were asking the same uncomfortable question. Was this another chapter in the never-ending battle between the Sussexes and the institution they left behind?
I mean, this is extraordinary. It takes a lot to shock me, but Prince Harry's decision to snub and insult King Charles is wild. It is mind-boggling, and it is a total horror show. Harry goes to Texas for a game of basketball while his father is being honoured in his country of birth here in the United Kingdom for the Trooping the Colour ceremony and the actual birthday. And Harry decides that on this incredibly important day for the United Kingdom, for the people of this country, for the institution of the monarchy, he's going to steal the limelight, grab some attention, and go to a basketball game about which he could.
The easy version of this story sounds simple. A prince skips a royal occasion and chooses basketball over family. But the deeper you look, the stranger everything becomes. Harry was not wandering into some random sporting event. This was Game 5 of the NBA Finals, one of the biggest sporting spectacles in America. The kind of event where celebrities, billionaires, athletes, and cameras all converge. Harry knew exactly where he was going. More importantly, everyone knew exactly where he was. And that visibility matters, because timing has become the hidden character in every Sussex story. For years, critics have accused Harry and Meghan of appearing in headlines whenever the royal family is trying to dominate the news cycle. Defenders call it coincidence. Critics call it strategy. Either way, the pattern keeps generating questions. The palace had hoped the conversation would be about King Charles trooping the colour and the future of the monarchy. Instead, headlines were suddenly split between London and Texas, between a king celebrating continuity and a prince building a life far away from it. Then came another twist.
The NBA final, the Knicks beat the Spurs 94-90 in Game 5, winning the series 4-1 and therefore winning the NBA championship. The report said it was the Knicks' first title since 1973, which is pretty significant. New York Knicks' first win in 53 years. Pretty good. The game in the United States, in Texas, about which he knows nothing. And by the way, taking tickets from regular American punters, because this was the NBA final, a really big deal. The Knicks versus San Antonio, the Spurs. And therefore you've got locals who would love to be there, but can't, because Harry has got to make a statement and he's going to use that opportunity. So he goes and he's dressed in a... really shocks me. And what's hilarious is that Harry wasn't even the main event at this game, because he goes there, he's in Texas, he's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm Prince Harry, I'm like a total VIP. Unfortunately, he's relegated to the 8th row back with the ordinary people, with the plebs, with the great unwashed. Meanwhile, the actors Timothée Chalamet and Ben Stiller right at the front among the A-listers, which is quite the slap in the face for Harry. But it doesn't matter.
The truth that many people ignore is that Harry has not attended Trooping the Colour for years. He wasn't invited. He wasn't expected. He wasn't standing outside palace gates waiting for a call that never came. By every official measure, Harry was already outside the circle. But then something happened that complicated everything. As the royal family gathered in London, Harry's face appeared on giant screens in Germany through a pre-recorded Invictus message. Suddenly, while soldiers marched in Britain, Harry was speaking about service, sacrifice, resilience, and wounded veterans. And this is where the story becomes fascinating, because Invictus is different. Unlike many projects attached to Harry's post-royal life, Invictus carries genuine weight. It existed before Netflix, before memoirs, before interviews, before lawsuits, before endless royal drama. Invictus is one of the few things almost everyone agrees Harry built successfully, which creates a contradiction. Was Harry simply supporting veterans?
And I think it's terribly sad, because yesterday, the Trooping the Colour, it's a great British tradition, and it's Charles's day. It's his father's day. How can you seek to take attention away from your old man and also to effectively disrupt a British tradition for your own ego. But Harry's made that. This weekend saw the celebration of the King's official birthday, Trooping the Colour, a wonderful event. Someone noticeable in their absence, Prince Harry, who was likely watching this wonderful occasion on a flat screen telly from his Montecito mansion. But what were his emotions given the fact that he was noticeable in his absence? Who better to ask than the brilliant royal broadcaster on this occasion that he would stay home, watch the ceremony, maybe issue some kind of message congratulating his father on this special occasion. The idea that he publicly goes to a sports game is a wild insult and a wild snub to his own father.
It really is, and I had some unique...
Or was the timing creating another parallel event that competed with royal coverage? The palace didn't answer. Harry didn't answer. But observers certainly did. Royal commentators immediately noticed that the message aired during Trooping the Colour. A pre-recorded message could have been shown at countless different moments. Yet somehow it appeared during the very hours that royal attention was reaching its peak. Coincidence? Perhaps. But royal watchers have learned that coincidence rarely survives close inspection. The overlap was impossible to ignore. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't just about a prince missing a parade, it became about competing images. King Charles represented continuity. Harry represented independence. One stood surrounded by generations of monarchy. The other stood as the founder of a global veterans movement. And those competing images created headlines exactly when headlines matter most. Then the situation became even more complicated. Only hours before the King's celebration, Meghan entered the news cycle too. A seemingly innocent social media post. A baby, a joke, a friendly moment. On the surface, nothing controversial, yet timing transformed a simple Instagram story into another piece of a much larger puzzle. The post spread quickly. Articles appeared. Discussions followed. Social feeds filled with Sussex content once again. Then Harry's Invictus message arrived. Then Harry appeared at the NBA Finals. 3 separate moments. 3 separate headlines. 1 24-hour period. And suddenly, critics were arguing that the Sussex brand had once again managed to place itself directly alongside a major royal event. Whether intentional or accidental almost became irrelevant because perception is everything, and perception was doing the heavy lifting.
Accident. They couldn't let Charles and William and Catherine and Queen Camilla have their day. So King Charles will be very upset about this. King Charles is doubtless devastated as he opens. What we've learned, haven't we, in recent years, Kinsey, is that the Sussexes don't do anything by accident. And by Harry effectively upstaging his father and going to a sports game in the middle of this venerated moment for the country is a slap in the face, it's an insult, and it's on purpose.
Royal commentator Robert Jobson described it as classic counter-programming, not necessarily because any single event was outrageous, but because together they created a sequence impossible to overlook, a social media moment, an Invictus appearance, a high-profile sporting event, one after another, like carefully arranged dominoes. The deeper mystery wasn't whether these events happened. Everyone could see they happened. The mystery was whether anyone intended them to form a pattern, and that question hangs over everything, because every move Harry makes now carries a second meaning. Every appearance becomes a statement. Every absence becomes a statement. Every headline becomes evidence for whichever side already believes its own version of the story. Meanwhile, King Charles stood at the center of royal ceremony, projecting stability, tradition, and continuity. But somewhere far away, Prince Harry was generating a completely different kind of attention. And perhaps that is the real tragedy of this entire saga. Not that father and son occupy different continents. Not that they attend different events, but that everything either man does is now interpreted through the lens of conflict. Every public appearance becomes a referendum. Every photograph becomes a message. Every silence becomes suspicious. And as this latest controversy exploded across headlines, another uncomfortable question quietly emerged. Was Harry truly living his independent life on his own terms? And that is exactly the trap Harry now appears to be living inside. Every road seems to lead back to the same destination. If he attends a major event, people accuse him of stealing attention. If he stays silent, people speculate about what his silence means. If he supports Invictus, critics search for hidden motives. If he attends a basketball game, critics call it a calculated message. It is a cycle that seems to repeat itself with almost mechanical precision. What made Robert Jobson's observations particularly powerful was that he wasn't screaming outrage. He wasn't making making wild accusations. Instead, he was describing a reality that many royal observers quietly acknowledge. Harry's departure from royal life did not have to end this way. There was once a path where Harry and Meghan could have remained connected to both worlds. They could have lived abroad while still appearing at selected royal occasions. They could have maintained family relationships while pursuing independent projects. They could have balanced freedom with unity. But somewhere along the way, the bridges collapsed. Interviews happened. Books happened.
Rupert, if Megxit had been done correctly, then Harry and Meghan could have remained expat royals, couldn't they? Sorry, expat royals. You know, then they could have dipped in and out of these occasions. They could have gone to family weddings and maybe even made an appearance at the Trooping of the Colour. But those bridges have been burnt. What do you think King Charles and his son William will make of, because the Sussexes don't do anything by accident, do they? It's all messaging, as you say.
No, and I think they will go, here we go again. I think it would be rolling eyes. You know, here we see he wasn't right in the front row. I think he got a ticket. Look, he lives over there, and if you can get a ticket, you know, why not? But again, the sort of PR element of it is clearly showing, look, I'm living my best life. You know, whatever you say, I'm happy with my choices. And I think that's the sort of overt message from yesterday.
So this is a flash sprinkles. My husband. But Harry can sit in a public arena surrounded by thousands of people and he's safe, but he won't come to London. Look at how peaceful and tranquil it is.
Documentaries happened, lawsuits happened, public grievances became global entertainment, and now every major royal event automatically becomes a test of Harry's relationship with the institution he left behind. The pattern growing around Harry is becoming impossible to ignore. More and more appearances are happening without Meghan. The NBA Finals appearance was solo. Recent sporting appearances were solo. Travel engagements have been solo. Public sightings have become increasingly solitary. Meanwhile, Meghan's public image appears to be moving in a completely different direction, focused on lifestyle content, social media visibility, and California-based projects. The overlap between their public worlds seems smaller than it once was, and that is where the speculation intensifies. Earlier in the year, Harry and Meghan appeared together at basketball events, smiling for cameras and presenting a united image. Yet months later, Harry was sitting alone in Texas while Meghan remained elsewhere. Critics immediately noticed. Commentators started connecting dots. Rumors spread. Questions multiplied. Is this a deliberate strategy? Is it simply scheduling? Or is there something deeper happening behind the scenes that the public cannot see? Nobody outside their inner circle truly knows, but the visual difference is impossible to miss. At the same time, something entirely different was happening in London. Trooping the Colour was unfolding exactly as the monarchy intended. Crowds filled the streets. Cameras captured every angle. The royal family appeared united. King Charles stood confidently at the center of the ceremony. Catherine appeared healthy, composed, and radiant after months of public concern surrounding her health. Prince William looked increasingly comfortable in the role many believe he is preparing to inherit. The children smiled. The aircraft roared overhead. The balcony moment delivered precisely the image the institution wanted the world to see. Continuity, stability, strength, that may be the most painful element of this story. Not because Harry was absent, but because the institution continued without him. The parade worked, the crowds came, the applause arrived, the photographs traveled around the world. The monarchy performed its central function, convincing people that it remains larger than any individual member, and that reality creates a brutal contrast. One image showed a royal family standing together on Buckingham Palace's balcony. Another showed Harry sitting inside an arena thousands of miles away. No article was required to explain the symbolism. The photographs did all the work themselves. Then another controversy emerged. Meghan's social media post featuring her friend's child reignited criticism about privacy and consistency. Critics questioned why other children's faces could appear online while Harry and Meghan continue shielding their own children from public exposure. Once again, observers pointed to what they saw as mixed messaging. Whether fair or unfair, the criticism added another layer to an already complicated weekend. And that is where this entire saga arrives once again. Not with resolution, not with reconciliation, not with closure. Instead, it ends exactly where so many Sussex stories end, with distance. Harry continues traveling without Meghan and the children. Reports suggest future UK visits connected to Invictus will follow the same pattern. Questions remain about whether he will see his father, whether he will see William, whether private conversations are happening behind closed doors, or whether the silence between them remains as wide as ever. The cruel irony is impossible to ignore. Harry left royal life to build a new future on his own terms. Yet as each year passes, he appears increasingly defined by the very institution he tried to leave behind. Every headline still circles back to the monarchy. Every appearance is measured against palace events. Every decision becomes another chapter in a story that refuses to end. And perhaps that is the real mystery hiding beneath all the noise. Not whether Harry intended to overshadow anyone, not whether the timing was deliberate, not whether critics or defenders are right. The real mystery is whether Harry is still writing his own story, or whether the story is now writing him. Because as the royal family grows closer, as William and Charles appear more united, and as the monarchy continues moving forward without him, one question continues hanging in the air. What happens when a prince spends years searching for a new place to belong, only to discover that the world he left behind has learned how to live without him? The answer to that question may be the most explosive chapter of all, and the story still feels far from over.